But eventually this would have worn through the hardened surface of the cam and possibly the lifter, and then just flattened everything out and failed. So we Hey, thanks for coming back to the channel. Freedom One Garage here. Click like, subscribe. Subscribing helps the algorithms and the maths in the internets for somehow. But we are on engine teardown number 2 for the 84K10. If you go back to the original engine teardown, we were going to rebuild. That engine got super hot, spun a bearing really bad, junk. So we reached out locally. A friend of mine had a 79-ish van with a small block 350 in it. Made a deal, went out, popped it out of there, cleaned it up. It was covered in goo. That's another video you can go watch. And yeah, we're gonna tear this down. Not gonna go through the step-by-step. We've got water pump off over there. We're gonna get down to where, you know, if we find something, we'll certainly let you know. But we're going to get down to where we were, and we'll make a plan to get this K10 done. I'll get to work. You guys just hang on and I'll give you an update here in a second. Uptake number 1 from the valley side. Things are just nice. There's a few crusties. Most of them I dropped in there because they're still pretty dirty manifold. Now, the negative side is this thing sat outside and we've had moisture creep up through the exhaust. I don't think it caught. It probably got into 1 cylinder or 2, but for the most part it just got to the exhaust ports and the back sides of the valves. So we'll have to look at the valves when we get this off. Both heads are like that. Again, that's nothing that came from the inside of the engine out. This is just moisture creeping up through the exhaust. These two are pretty gnarly, but you can see the back face of the valves for the most part are good, minus these two, and even those will probably wire brush up. But hopefully we didn't get any pitting in the cylinders, and we'll see. We're going to take rocker arms, and then we'll pop heads off and we'll know more. Well, we've got kind of a string of bad luck going here with cylinders 3 and 5. Not horrible news, but not great. Oh, so we saw that moisture was creeping up through the exhaust. Here's 7, not horrible. That'll hone out, but here's 5, and 5 actually has, you know, some buildup here towards the top. This last maybe 5/16 of the cylinder will never see a piston ring, but right below that, right where this dark area is, well, and it's going to need the seat. So we're going to have to see how that hones. And then 3, we're smooth here. We got just a little tickle bit of creep into the actual usable cylinder wall, but I want to make sure there's nothing worse down below. So you guys watch. There's the top. It doesn't like that part of it. Doesn't like that. And then we're down here now. What's the bottom of that cylinder look like? Not too shabby. Got some lines, but it's smooth. I can see just a tickle of crosshatch even. That one's all right. That's just dust, I think. We got some lines in that one. Number 1. Okay. Coming back up to our trouble spot here. Well, we're just gonna have to see. I don't think this is a game breaker. We've got some staining going on here in 4. And again, you're seeing just a little bit of that rust weeping down, but otherwise not too bad. We're gonna forge ahead, and I still haven't taken the fuel pump off. We'll pull the pump. We've turned this thing around enough times. It's time to go ahead and pull the dampener, timing cover, timing chain, all that good stuff. We'll pop the lifters out and get those organized, and we'll just go ahead and finish breaking this down. It's the next day. It's super windy, so we got the place shut up, but you might still hear a little grumbling and moaning and groaning from the old post frame building here. Anywho, we are torn down. We're down to our short block. Heads are off. Let's start over here on the table. Accessories, like I said, from the get-go, pop valve covers off, and we were pretty happy with what we saw in there. The donor vehicle, the van, showed about 90,000 miles, and that looks to be fairly accurate there. One thing I will note, and I mean it survived 90,000 miles, but it had the darn nylon timing gear, cam gear set in it, and so we're replacing that for sure. We are going to use the exhaust manifolds. These manifolds are a lot nicer than those manifolds, so we're using those. Push rods and rockers all looked fine. Main bearings, we have some wear, but nothing even down to a different color metal yet. They all look good. The crank, you guys and gals, is beautiful. And I'm jumping ahead just a little bit, but everything on this crank, mains are supposed to be about 2.448. Rods are 2.10. Everything's within 10 thousandths. We don't have any bizarre numbers coming out of here, so no indication's been rebuilt, anything, and it's just smooth as glass. So we have a really nice crank. Now, where we did fall short with this engine, let's go over here to the bench, is on the heads. We got some moisture creep into the combustion chamber, and that caused, you know, we've got some crumblies in the exhaust ports and that kind of thing. I'll show you. I've already had valves out once, a couple of them pretty bad. Now they look really bad coming out, but then this one I cleaned up because the customer stopped by yesterday. That's why we didn't finish this off yesterday, but you can see it, there's still a little bit of pitting. This might lap out, but in the end, what we do have are the heads from the overheated engine that have only about 10,000 miles on them. Look really good, so we're going to clean these up, put new seals in them, make sure all the valves are opening and closing and staying sealed correctly. And the plan is to use these heads with the donor block. So for now, these are going to go on a shelf in the other shed, and yeah, not to get used. Pistons number, we got our bad luck numbers are 3 and 5, obviously. So there's 3. You know, it's been burning a little oil. Where did I? For 90,000 miles, it looked really good, but the valve seals are just hard as a rock, and they just came off in pieces. That's what those are. But number 3, not too bad. Been burning a little bit of oil, but otherwise not bad at all. Bearings all look good. Number 5, however, where that moisture crept in, got a little bit of goo and schmoo on it. However, that's just a little bit of work with the wire wheel. So we're not worried about the pistons. We'll re-ring them, re-bearing everything here, and life is pretty good. They appear to be stock bore pistons, I don't have any reason to think otherwise right now. What we'll do is we'll do just a little bit of a cleanup hone, and then we'll double measure the bores a little bit just to make sure. So far we got a pretty good plan, but then we hit another stumbling block. So let's go back over here to the table. And like Uncle Tony's Garage did a really good video on explaining cam lifters and camshaft and the issues lately with parts and cams wearing out and that kind of stuff. Well, this isn't a new camshaft, but we are going to have to replace it. Cam itself doesn't look too out of shape. However, this is an excellent example. I'll wipe these two guys off. This is what a wear pattern on the cam side of the lifter should be. It should be a circle. There's supposed to be a little crown machined into these lifters, about a 1/1000th or so, and that keeps that. And then there's also a crown on the cam lobe, and so that keeps these lifters rotating so they don't sit in one spot, because these aren't hardened through and through. They have a hardened surface, right? So that's what you want to see, the circles. And we were going really good, and then we ran into this guy, and you can see there's a stripe, vertical stripe right across here, and then you can also see it's starting to form just a little bit of a dent right where that line is. So this one was not rotating. The cam was going right across this way every single time. This had not failed yet, but eventually this would have worn through the hardened surface of the cam and possibly the lifter, and then just flattened everything out and failed. So we had at least one of those. That's a certain. We had 2 or 3. It was kind of weird. That's a stripe. You can kind of see it in there. Not as bad. That first one was the worst one we had found. There's a good one. That's a nice circle pattern. And here again we're looking at kind of a stripe here. See this line right over here, and there's a line right over here. So anyway, short story is we're not putting that cam and lifter back in the engine. And for the money, for less than $200 fairly easily, we can get a quality cam and lifter set, and that's what we're going to do. Now the block, let's talk block here. Cylinders look and feel good. There's a little bit of staining. You can see the crosshatch in the bottom of them. However, we do have that issue with number 5, 3 and 5 actually. 1 doesn't look too bad. I can't catch a nail on any of this, I'm going to say it right now, except for right here. This piston was down about 3/4 of an inch from the top of the cylinder, and you can see that rust had accumulated here. I can catch my fingernail, but I think that's just on the surface, and we're going to go ahead and like I said, do a preliminary hone, especially on this cylinder, to make sure that's going to clean up. And then we also have a little bit of staining over here, but nothing really to call the therapist about. Life is going to be good there. And then again, a little bit of staining here and there, but overall really nice looking block. So we're going to hone, we're going to do a preliminary hone on this cylinder just to make sure it's going to clean up, and then we're going to remeasure them, make sure I'm 263% sure that we're talking, you know, stock bore. We're going to hone them and not have to go to the machine shop. Cam bearings all look good, really good actually. I don't want to flip it back over just to show you, but that's the lead one. The rest of them all look like that. So no, not going to the machine shop. got to get it cleaned up and got to hone it. And you know, that's about it for the block. For the heads, we will go through the valves on the old heads, and again, they were within spec. The heads aren't warped. We checked those, so we'll go through those, clean them up, new valve seals. They'll be ready to rock. We'll put a new camshaft in, and then again, I'm gonna redo the math and double check everything, but it looks like we're gonna go back in with standard size bearings even. I mean, this is just a really, this crank is magnificent, I'm telling you. So that's the plan. We'll do a little hone on that cylinder, see what it looks like, and then we got to order parts. All right, so we've got our fresh 220 grit stones on our hone. That should be just perfect for the cast iron rings that this small block chibby will use. And then I used to use kind of a multi-purpose lubricating oil spray for my honing, but then I've kind of adopted, you know, the Uncle Tony method here to a certain extent with using a little bit of two-stroke gas. I don't think he does the two-stroke thing, but he uses gasoline and it seems to work out pretty well. All right, we've got just a tickle more ridge than I'm comfortable with as far as trying to hone it away. And you don't want to take more material than you expect to away just because you're trying to get through a ridge. We're going to, I don't own a ridge reamer anymore. We're gonna pick one up and we'll get rid of what's left of this ridge here all the way around, and then we should be able to hone out the rest of the top of the cylinder there. Otherwise it's coming along swimmingly and is not going to cause us any issues, but we certainly don't want to take more material from the cylinder walls than we need to just because we're locked in on getting rid of that ridge. So we're going to do it the right way. We'll get a ridge reamer, cut that out, cut all of them out, and then we'll continue with the honing. Hey, stuff and things arrived. We ordered a couple tools just a couple days ago. JB Tool on the old interweb. Good prices and super fast shipping. I'm pretty sure today's Monday. I'm pretty sure I ordered these Friday. Maybe even Saturday. No, it's Friday. Anyway, one of the things we got was the Lyle brand of ridge reamer, part number 36500. This is the bad ride here. Took it out to kind of get the lay of the land. It's been a long time since I've used a ridge reamer. There's a couple styles. This may not be the style that is preferred by most. This goes in, the whole thing expands, and this cutting edge, you slowly adjust it out against the cylinder wall and you cut the entire ridge at the same time. Now there's another style that goes in, it's like two pieces, and the bottom piece goes in and expands to center itself in the cylinder, and then you screw down the top piece and then back it out, and as it backs out it moves up. It's a very fine threaded center screw, and as it backs out it moves up and cuts the ridge like kind of like on it was a manual lathe or something. So maybe that's better, but for us we went with this one. It was easy to get, less than $100, and we're gonna use it. Remember, this is what we're dealing with. We started honing and clearly you can see there's a ridge there, and then we're not getting this part. which is the part over here where our surface rust is. Hey buddy, what you doing? Having the best day? Hanging out. So we need to get here and make sure we can hone this out and it looks good. And the only way to do that is to get through this ridge. And well, that's better. Now we got some light. So there you can see where our ridge and where we're unable to hone because of the height of the ridge won't let the stone get down in here. So now a couple tips. First of all, if you're doing this in the vehicle and you're coming at an angle, you got to put pressure down on the tool to keep it in the bore and centered in the bore. If you're on an engine stand like this, tilt your engine so the side of the engine, it's a 4-cylinder, you're fine. If it's a V8, V6, V10, whatever, tilt the engine stand so you're vertical, so you can put nice firm pressure straight down on the reamer as you're turning it. The center screw, if you turn it counterclockwise, it shrinks the tool. Clockwise, it expands it. You have two arms that have rollers on them, right there and right there, and then this is the cutting arm. You got a blade up here. This will be at the top of the cylinder, and then you got a little nylon nubbin here that rolls or slides along the cylinder wall. The next thing you have to notice about this particular variety of the ridge reamer is it has these 3 feet that once it's in here, they'll ride on top of the cylinder head surface or the block surface for the cylinder head, and that keeps things level in the cylinder bore. So like on this cylinder, we've got some chunkies over here and the gasket didn't come off as clean. You're gonna want to prep this so that it's smooth around each cylinder that you're gonna ream. We're gonna go ahead and do that because we don't want to screw anything up. All right, I backed it up just a little bit so I can have the rooms to make this work. It's just a matter of getting it snug. Now it can slide around here real nice and even, Steven. So we're snug it down just a little bit, right around there for our initial, phase. And then you do want to use, we're just going to use PB, but if you got cutting oil, use your cutting oil, I suppose. We're not too worried about actual cutting oil at this point. Now in the instructions, they'll tell you need 2 size wrenches. This is 9/16. This is 13/16. Kind of expected it to be 3/4, but whatever. Anyways, they'll tell you use a wrench to move the cutting tool. And if this is in the car or you don't have, maybe you have accessories on the engine or whatever, you might not be able to get a full turn. But another important factor is, and they tell you in the instructions to put downward pressure on here as well. Well, that's hard to do if you're trying to wrench and then your offhand is, what do you do with your hands type thing. What I do, just get you a breaker bar. That way you have plenty of leverage. You can make big swings. Every time you stop your turn, you run the risk of the tool kind of digging in to that ridge. Right now we're not hardly cutting anything, so we're going to tighten this just a little bit. Don't expect this to go super fast. You might spend 20-30 minutes on each cylinder. And see, with that breaker bar you get lots of leverage, and you can take big swings when you can have your block at vertical to the ground like this. About 1/8 of a turn each adjustment. And there's a couple ways you can watch. You can watch with your eyeball, but the easiest way is to just run your finger in here. You'll feel when that ridge starts to go away. And this might take a while, so just don't get impatient. Take your time. There, we got some off. Every once in a while it'll take a bite. Just gotta work through it. Come on. Yep, we got her now. This will be our last depth that we cut, so to speak. Now, had I not had the old breaker bar on there, we would have gotten stuck in one of those last couple revolutions, and it would have dug in, and we would have had a ridge. Now, it would have just been at the top of the cylinder, but we would have still had to deal with it. All right. The fingernail and the finger says we're happy. Pull that puppy out. Oops. Air hose. There we go. We got our ridge gone. Now we still have a little bit of rust there, but what we don't have is a ridge. So we're going to go get our hone rigged up again, and we're going to go through this cylinder one more time and make sure that this area of rust here is going to clean up. And then once we know that, we'll just take our time, get the ridge out of the rest of the cylinders, give them a hone, and we'll know this core block is ready to rock. Just a tickle more. We're pretty happy though. All right, we got rid of our rust. We cannot catch, you can see if you look close, and I don't really expect the GoPro to be able to show this, but there's cross hatching through. See how the top area where we cut that ridge is a different color anyway? We are in good shape. We've got cross hatching throughout. Looks good all the way down to the bottom of the cylinder. We're gonna go on to the rest of them, and yeah, that'll be the next phase for the block. Thanks for joining us on this teardown. We sure wish we would have had a total good core, but I think we're going to be in good shape between this bottom end and the original top end heads. Life is going to be pretty good. By the time you see this block again, it'll be honed, all the ridges reamed, and we'll be cleaning. We got to really clean it up, and then yeah, we'll start getting things put back together, throw a coat of paint on it. We have to order parts. We got a lot of parts we got to order, so lots left to do on this one. Appreciate everybody watching. We'll catch you on the next video.